What's going on YouTube? This is JabberTech, and today I'm just going to do a 6-month later update. It's actually a little bit more than 6 months, but I'm going to do an update on the OnePlus 8 Pro. This has been my daily driver since it came out, and there's a couple things that I like about the 8 Pro. There's a couple things that are making me scratch my head. There's a couple things that you might want to know if you're interested in picking this phone up. Again, this is a little bit over 6 months later, and I have quite a bit to say about the OnePlus 8 Pro. But I'm not going to go into too much detail about the phone. If you want to see a full review, check my full review down below, because most of that still holds true 6 months later. But let's get into this little update video on the OnePlus 8 Pro. This is a OnePlus 8 Pro, and I still like the styling. I still like the overall design of the 8 Pro. I think they did a really nice job, and it feels super premium in hand. It is a premium handset. It is about $900 still, 6 months later. The price has not really dropped all that much in the retail market. But we did get Oxygen 11 on here. It kind of brought us some new updates. It kind of brought us a couple new features, and especially one feature that I was waiting for since release of this phone, and that is the dual SIM card. Now, I've been complaining about that on Twitter. I've been complaining about it a whole bunch of places because I guess I didn't read the fine print, and that's my fault for not reading the fine print that a software update, an OTA update, would enable dual SIM. But in all my years, in all of my wildest dreams, I never thought it would take over 6 months. So about 6 months into owning this phone, they finally did release a software update, and finally there is dual SIM support in the US for the OnePlus 8 Pro. I guess I was kind of over it. I guess I wasn't really expecting all that much, but I do like it. So you can set up data limits on one or data limits on both. If you've ever had a dual SIM phone, it's what you can expect. We also have Smart 5G, which is here on the single SIM. Nothing about the dual SIM really is all that new. It's basically the same thing. Let me know if your phone has this issue as well, or maybe I got to do a factory reset. But you can see that some of the icons are not fully baked into it. You can see I can't see that privacy icon, not at all, and the location is actually a blank circle as well. So I think there still are a couple things that are not quite right with the 8 Pro Oxygen 11 update. Again, for those of you that did a full reset, let me know if you can see those two options. Let me know if you see those icons. And when I switch it over to dark mode, you can see the same issues with privacy and location. Again, I don't know if I have to fully reset, so let me know down in the comments below. But it's kind of like those colors, those icons got inverted. Something went awry. Again, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below if you have the same issue. But let's talk about battery life, because battery life is something that it is 6 months later, and this was more of a battery champ in the beginning, and that's the case with all phones. But I have noticed that the battery life just isn't as good, and 6 months later into a product cycle, into a phone, I think the battery life should be almost as good as it was new. And again, please let me know about your battery life down in the comments below. I don't know if it's a bad flash with Oxygen 11, but my phone definitely is not lasting like it should. My phone's battery is not really doing all that great. You can see it looks like a ski slope. This is like a black diamond with some moguls in between. It's just not lasting like it should. So for battery life though, I can say that, at least from my experience, I'm making it almost to the entire day. Now what do I mean about almost to the entire day? Taking this off the charger at about 7 a.m., which is when it actually starts. I have my phone turn off automatically when I'm sleeping, but it comes back on at 7. So from 7, I can usually make it until, I'd say, about 9, 10 p.m. Now, by that time, I'm usually home. If I've been using this phone hard, it's not going to last past that time. If I'm a little bit more or less active on my phone, I can make it through the entire day. I can make it till about that 11 p.m. time frame, but by that time I'm usually down to single digits in terms of my battery life. So overall, I don't really think that the battery life is really that great 6 months later. Now this could be because of the Warp Charge 30. This could be because of that super fast charging. This seriously charges up within about half an hour. I swear by the time I plug it in, go brush my teeth, comb my hair, do whatever else I gotta do in the morning, this is already fully charged. So I don't know if that's taking a huge toll on the battery life. I might have to just refresh the cycle a little bit and do a little bit of trickle charging to kind of bring the health back to the battery. But all of that fast warp charging looks like it's taking a toll on my OnePlus 8 Pro. Again, please let me know down in the comments below what your experience is with the battery life if you had this phone for a couple months, especially if you've had this phone since launch. I'd really be curious to see what exactly your battery life is like. But you do have a battery saver. Just with any other phone, you can save battery by turning off background processes and whatnot. Reverse charging is cool, although I only use it about once or twice. But again, if you want to charge up your headphones or charge up another phone, you can throw it on top of your 8 Pro. Looking at the UI refresh, some people complained about it because it looks very Samsung-ish. I'm not saying this is a Samsung phone now, but it definitely looks like One UI, and I actually don't mind it, guys. It just means that you can get to these settings very, very easily. With a 6.8-inch display, it's not always that easy to get to what you need to get to. I have big hands, but I also have to do a lot of hand gymnastics when I'm out in the street. One hand is busy. I'm going down the street, I'm trying to find some settings, or I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. It wasn't all that easy. Companies have to grow, companies have to advance, and this is one way that OnePlus thought they had to grow to make their phones more mainstream. And whether or not it's going to work, I think for the average person, I think they'd much rather a UI that was much more manageable in one hand. But it is what it is, no issues with that. And it finally brought us an always-on display, and this is something that a lot of us have been asking OnePlus for. I personally don't know why it took so long, but it's here, and we have some nifty clocks. We have some pretty nice clocks, and I know a lot of us like these clocks, so let me just show you some of the options. Starting with Insight, because I think the Insight clock is pretty cool. This was designed right here in New York City with Parsons School of Design, and it lets you know how many times you've unlocked your device. It also lets you know how many times you actually used your device, with these notches in this color-coded type of line here. So again, you can tell how many times you've unlocked your device, and I think I've actually unlocked my device about 100 times one time. That was the most I got in one day. It actually didn't make me feel too good, but you can see how many times you've unlocked it, how many times you've used it. And again, with every unlock, it adds a notch to the top. So I think it's a nice design. I think they did a nice job with that clock style. And the rest of them are probably ones that we've seen on other devices. I kind of like this one that's more shaded, that has a little gradient to it. So always on display is here, something that we've all been asking for. One thing I did notice, just on a side note, about the Oxygen 11 update in terms of connectivity, in terms of my network speed, I do find that the 8 Pro locks on to the cell signals a lot faster than it did before. I'm in the subway going in between stations, and I notice I get service back very, very quickly. Other times it would take a little while. Once I got to the station, I'd have to wait maybe about 10-15 seconds, and then I'd notice that I was connected. But now with this update, I have been connecting very quickly to the network, so I'm giving them props for that as well. Maybe it was worth the 6 months of update. 6 months later though, 865 processor is still a champ. 6 months later though, the 120 Hz refresh rate is definitely noticeable, especially when coming from a 60 Hz phone. If you're coming from a 90 Hz phone, I don't really notice the difference, but it is here. We get an awesome panel. I still like this display. Again, some issues were fixed with software updates. I do not have green tint. I don't have any of those issues that plague some of the other devices. I think it's an awesome screen, gets bright enough in direct sunlight where you can see it. It also gets dim enough at night, so no issues with this panel, and we do have stereo speakers. With 256 AES encryption. And it also has this nice biometric feature right on the front, which get really loud, so when you're watching your Jabbertech videos on the go, you'll still be able to hear it when you're on that bus. Again, this was a premium handset, and it's still a premium handset 6 months later. Now, the camera itself was never a champ when it came out. It was never the leader of the pack, but it is a solid performer, and I think you get some really nice pictures on the OnePlus 8 Pro. So if we take a look at them, I'm just going to show you a couple. Again, check out my full review if you want to see more photo samples and whatnot. But you get some really nice detail with the 8 Pro. You can really zoom in and you can still see every little thing about whatever you photographed. So I think they did a really nice job. This was never a champ, but it's also not a slouch as well. And they have pushed out a couple updates to kind of help this camera. I have to say that the OnePlus 8 Pro is a multiple shutter shooter, but it's a device that you think you got your photo in focus, and then you go back and look at it later and it just didn't focus properly. And that's what's keeping a steady hand. That's what's keeping everything as it should. But I think when you take a couple shots, or you really just take your time and press that shutter button, you can get some pretty nice shots. You can get some really nice shots with some great detail as well. But it's not one of those phones where you can just snap on that shutter button and think you got it correctly each and every time. But one place that I think they kind of neutered the overall experience of the 8 Pro's camera is with all of these filters. I do like the color lens on the back, and by the way, there's a telephoto, an ultra wide, and your standard shooter. And I had a lot of fun when this phone first came out with the different colors with that color lens. But really, I think they've kind of toned it down, and I don't seem to be getting those great shots that I used to, because there was a problem with one of their filters for going through plastics and giving people X-ray vision with clothing. I tried that X-ray vision. Let me tell you, that did not work for me at all. But they kind of had to neuter down this color filter, and honestly, I don't think it looks all that great. So the camera overall, although it's not a slouch, it's definitely not at the top of the heap. It still needs some work, and I think OnePlus is working on it. But I am happy to say that you no longer should feel ashamed for using your OnePlus device as your camera. It used to be back in the day, if you had a OnePlus phone and you wanted to take some shots, you'd let some other people take them and get it from their Google Drive. But right away, the 8 Pro does a nice job, and I think most people, for just everyday shots of around town and whatnot, everyone will be just fine with the 8 Pro. It is more of a phone, however, that you want to pick up because you like the stock-ish type experience. you like to customize your phone, you like to change your accent colors, you like to go in and maybe change your icon packs directly from the OnePlus launcher, because you can just download icon packs and you can go in and you can change them on the fly very, very quickly. So I like the customization on the 8 Pro. That's one of the things that really keeps me coming back to the OnePlus device. Lastly, do I recommend the OnePlus 8 Pro about 6 months later or so? I think it's still a great device. You do get a lot of fingerprints on this black model, but I think it's a nice device, especially now if you check my link for Swappa and you save a little bit of coin. I think this is a great device for the $500 to $700 max price point. I don't know if I would spend the $900 that they're asking right now online. I don't know if I'd spend the $1,000 today, but if you can get a deal on it, I think you'll be really happy with the 8 Pro. Again, all the specs are premium. All the specs still remain premium 6 months later. But let me know what you think about the 8 Pro down in the comments below. This is still a phone I recommend. This is still a phone that I actually really enjoy using, but I like to know your opinion. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys next time.